I'll call to order the Administrative Oversight Committee, August 19th, 2015. Can we call the attendance, please?
Mr. Hupkey.
Here.
Mr. March.
Here.
Mr. Bowden.
Here. We approved the minutes of June 10th Administrative Oversight Committee, or any corrections?
I move to approve the minutes.
I have a correction.
Ooh, sorry.
Under general discussion, it has who informed him that they have an IT service if we needed it. But then it also has, in that Blair, after it says service if we needed it, should be Trustee Hupkey stated that Blair Technology was also well respected.
I will make the correction for you and give you a new set.
Trustee March,
Move
motion?
to accept the minutes
As corrected.
Second?
I wasn't there.
Second.
Mr. March.
Yes.
Mr. Hupkey.
Yes.
And Mr. Bowden.
Present.
Do you have any public comment?
Kind of. At the last board meeting, we talked about the amplifier permitting situation. That maybe had an agenda. I think we're nickel and diming people for no reason.
That's part of the reason we're here with that.
To discuss that.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know, just folder. That was what I wanted to talk about.
We're going to review the amplifier ordinance for possible amendment. You have any comments, Chief?
Well, I just-
Going further?
What I presented to the members here was just a quick cut and paste of the regulations. When you see all the information out there, and I can get other copies made. First of all, the first part is amplifier by the hours restricted and when a license is required. Now, understand the amplifier permit, that's been around for many moons. And, you know, way BB before Bill, and I can say whatever. So the amplifier permit and this and that of this and the regulations of how much and the cost of, I mean, that came into play. Now, it says in here, and of course, when you cut and paste it, you key on amplifier. That's why some of it's amplified. It just says, you can't maintain any loudspeaker or amplifier connected with any radio, phonograph, microphone, or other device which sounds are magnified and made heard over any public street or public place without first having secured a license. This, and in this regulation, as you go down, it says, you know, talks about a residence, and it talks about the time they can have it, and then it talks about the term, I want to get it right, a commercial amplifier permit, which would be everything that's not non-for-profit. So presently, I know Drowley's gets one every year.
Mm-hmm. They have that outdoor PA.
They have the outdoor PA, and the Beer Stube had to get it when they were open after several years of not having it.
They have to.
Because they had to get one because they were playing the music when they wanted to. So, at the same time, just give you a quick overview, just a catch-up lesson. We created the O and M regulations. O talks about liquor outside the hard building, and in this it says, I've highlighted just some points on page 2. It says when you can drink outside, and the reason I bring this up, because it all feeds into licensing of amplifiers. They kind of mirror, and you'll see in the O permit process, it talks about the amplifier permit. The O license says you can drink outside, but you only do it till 11 o'clock, period, PM, for any beer garden type outside drinking. And it talks about the difference of it. You can't have it during November through March. And I don't know how long ago, what board was there, but this is probably 3 or 4 years old, maybe, Donna, the O&M.
Yeah.
So,
The O's and M's are relatively new.
and then
They
if,
started after Beer Stoop closed down.
yeah. So then we go down to section G. It says entertainment and electronically amplified music or sound shall not be permitted unless the provisions of Chapter 95, which is the amplifier permit, are met in full, and the applicant, or the applicable, has a Class M license is obtained, which is the music license. So then as we go to the next page, we talk about the Class M liquor permits, and it talks about entertainment, what's allowed, I've highlighted that. Part 2 says no entertainment as defined shall be allowed at any liquor license premises without a Class M permit. Inside, outside, all the sides. It says, you have a liquor license, have entertainment, as we defined it, you have to have an M license. This was brought into place because, unknown to us, every bar was having the band. And we didn't even know when they're having these events, and they could be very, you could have a lot of people in a building and not even know they're having an event. So the board at that time, we adopted some regulations, we looked at things, we got into square footage, how many people they can have. And the best part of the M license is the liquor establishments understand it, and they always notify us when they're gonna have a band. Plus, they have to close, the band music has to stop an hour before the bar time ends. So if it's 2 o'clock closing, the band has to stop at 1 hour before closing, shut it down, and get cleaned up and be out of there. Because they used to shut it down at 2 o'clock, and then at 3 o'clock, they're still moving the band, and 3 o'clock turns into 3:30, and it was just not very well regulated. Also, in the Class M, it says, down by section B, no entertainment as defined shall be allowed at any liquor license premises without a Class M permit. The fee of the Class M license is $50 a year. And then last, for review to the board members, is the last page, section D, says entertainment and electronically amplified music or sound shall not be permitted unless the provisions of the amplifier ordinance are met in full. So you can see how these kind of, especially in the liquor world, how they can be played out. I mean, to have music, they gotta have an M. If the sound's outside, they gotta have an amplifier permit. And the hours are subject to the board because it's a commercial amplifier permit. So the board can set the hours as you deem necessary. But, and that, I'm just trying to help give you a quick history lesson on how the regulations are there. Because you could read pages and pages of stuff, but I kind of went through and just highlighted the parts that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about that. I just caution you about this. Anytime you change one line, one sentence, one word, you have to redraft the ordinance, you have to post it, and then you have to have it codified later on to meet the books. So every word, is that the right process? I mean,
Yes, but codification, we do that quarterly anyway.
so every word, so every ordinance change, every little thing, somebody's got to draft a new ordinance, present it to you, first reading, second time it comes around for any minute or dissolvement of it. But if you get rid of amplifier permits, and you let them just play it, you're gonna hear noise all night long everywhere. And it's not gonna be controlled and regulated, and really, that's just kind of giving you a history lesson, because everybody's kind of new to this subject, but this is what the regulations that, we adopt. And like I said, we have the most aggressive, or one of the most aggressive liquor regulations for our bars. And they have to play nice, and they have to be controlled, or there is regulations that can close them for several days.
Chief,
And
what's the difference between the M1 and M2? So the M1 is $50 per event.
They can buy
M2
it-
is $50 a year.
Yeah. So you can buy it for one event, or you can, for $50, or you can spend $50 and get a license for the whole year and have multiple events.
I see what you're
I don't
saying.
understand
Exactly.
why do you have two of them? Why would anybody buy a single?
Well, that's what we
There
all
you
say.
go. That's
Okay.
why
All right.
everybody gets the year one.
All right.
So-
And I think what happened, just kind of give you, when we were reviewing all this, and as we were adopting the M license, we were listening to the bars when they came in. Of course, they give some input about this, and they said, well, if I'm going to have it, I'll just get it for the whole year. It just, when the first regulation was put in place, the $50 for the whole year was higher. But then, when the ordinance was drafted and we amended it, and that's where it came up with the 50.
Okay.
Realistically, if we had to rewrite it again, we'd just get rid of and make it M1
Right.
for everything.
Yeah.
But that's, when the ordinance was drafted, we had a higher fee for 1 year.
Sure.
And that's where, trying to explain how it came up. And when we changed the draft, we just changed the dollar, make it $50 for both. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and they still have to tell you when they're having a band. to
Yeah,
make it-
and they do. They email us. The places that are not affected is the Legion, because it's a hall, a rental hall, and Atrium, because they're a rental hall also. Wedding planning and all this other stuff. So they don't fall underneath those regulations. And I think the regulations are actually defined to
Nonprofit.
make them exempt from those, from
But
that.
they
So does
do
the
get-
fair have to get an amplifier permit?
No.
Why not?
They,
Because they actually hold
non-profit.
non-for-profit status.
Yeah, but it says in here, nonprofits have to get,
In the fair world, they're
just different, right?
it's they in the past they've gotten them. It's during the fair for the 5 days.
Yeah,
It's just
it is what it is.
they've gotten them in the past, and then sometimes it depends on what mayor comes in, because sometimes the mayors at the time have signed off. They have letters they sign for the fair. It's something that's gone on for probably a few decades.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but with the fair people, we sit down and meet with them, and we have the discussion with what the times the bar is running, the beer garden. They have the permits for the outside drinking. They have the state permit for the outside drinking. So, for the beer tent. So, when we brought all these regulations in place, like I said, we did have all the liquor establishments here talking about the O&M. So,
So, the music license is $50. No outside drinking is $50, but the amplifier is $250. What was the thought process on the amplifier being $250?
let me just say, if
Because that's what she's objecting to. She's not objecting to, I don't want to get a license. It's just, why should I pay $250 for?
And
handful
I
of
have
events.
proposals, but I'm gonna let the chief speak first.
well,
I don't think she'd object if it was $50 like all the other
well,
licenses.
and I caution you getting all this prorated stuff, because you're looking at, changing all the regulations for one event. I'm just saying, if we looked at the, regulation here, this, back in '06 is when it was, there was amended ordinance 60612 passed 9/26/06. That's when you see at the bottom of the regulations, you see that's included. That's how you can go back and say, well, this was passed in '06, the latest on the amplifier ordinance. I cannot go back and remember why it was set at 250. But like I said, when Carl was there, he accepted it.
Not happily, but.
Not happily, he just said, hey, you want to play Oompa Loompa? You have to set by the regulations of time. The problem is when you have, certain businesses say we're in a business district, we have to have the talk and this, when the bars start making noise, then our phone rings. When the noise gets, the residential, they hear it, it's unreasonable amount of time and hours. So I caution the board not to get too open or flexible to allow these bars to have this outside music being amplified over a certain reasonable amount of time. They want it way past 11. They want to go to whenever hours up. But the way these places, I mean, when they have it downtown, the echo inside the building is bad enough, and they go to 1 o'clock. It's lessened because they don't do so much entertainment. But every bar, when they were all plentiful downtown, everyone could have a different one every week. And we as police, we don't see the posters in the bars, and we're not even aware they're having the band. Well, the band can bring people, which mostly they do, and and we were just trying to set up a mechanism in place so the police would have to be told when you're having entertainment. And all of them tell us, the Legion, when they have their little one-man show, when they were running that, they buy the year-long appropriate license and call us, say we're having the one-man band playing, or the Throwbacks calls us, say we're having a DJ or we're having a band play. So on the amplifier regulations, whether or not 250 is too high or this and that, I'm just going to say this. For consideration, and this board, some of the boards here, the bars are in the bar business, but they're also in the gaming business now. And to have a liquor license is not to sell a liquor, it's the sale of gaming now that's the big profit margin. And this board should consider what's a fair market value for our liquor license, because the gaming, by last month's account, a couple months ago, was probably 800,000 or so waged, and some of the bars are probably, round number, probably making about 75 grand a year in gaming revenue for the liquor license. And you don't want to start getting into where, I know some towns near us, they've got serving alcohol in laundromats to get the gaming machines in them.
Yeah, but the way we structured our stuff, that can't happen. You have to have an A or an E or whatever Tony's got.
Yeah,
C,
well,
I think.
to get the gaming, you have to have, all you have to have is a drink on premises license.
No, you can only have those three. You can't have any of the other liquor
Yeah.
licenses that we've got.
But, but as people approach you, they're gonna come up with all kinds of ideas how to get a liquor license for more gaming opportunities. Because that's where the money is, because people are gambling their heads off. And so that's only, a sidebar. So I just given you all the History Channel I can answer.
So I would like to see the M2 eliminated. Because it's repetitious. I don't see why we need the 250s. I mean, it just seems repetitious to me. Just
Can I
to,
interject something?
I think all of our ordinances are good, and it allows the police to have control. I think we should leave everything written as is.
but it's repetitious. It's just saying the same
It is a
thing.
little bit, but we don't incur any cost to change anything.
No,
But let's
it's
eliminate,
confusing to some people.
let's eliminate the cost of the permits. I think to date, what have we generated, down to $350?
No, we're not, I just see, I
On
can't
what?
go for that.
Permit fees?
For amplifiers, for O's and M's, which licenses are you talking
I thought
about?
Steve told me amplifiers.
Amplifiers, I think this year, I know I looked it up for him this morning.
He called me, I thought he said 350.
350 could have been this year, but we're only
350 is so
halfway
far
through.
this year. You have $25 for amplifier fees, not 50. He was, he heard that wrong.
Yeah, because
And it's 250.
for
But
commercial.
right now, we're not really looking at that. Right now, I'm making the comment to the board that the M2 is repetitious. Am I not correct, Chief?
Yeah, because nobody's gonna pay $50 for one event.
This is what I'm
When
saying.
they can pay $50
It's the
for a
same
whole
thing.
year.
We're not losing any money, we're not gaining any money. No one's losing any money, no one's gaining, gonna spend any more money. It's just that I just think it's just repetitious, and if nothing else, it's somewhat confusing.
Right.
So-
But if you don't charge for it, it doesn't make any difference. Is it worth
But
it?
I think
we're not-
if you don't charge for it, then he loses
Well, that's, I mean,
jurisdiction over
and
it.
that's not what the discussion really is right now. The discussion is if we can eliminate the M2.
Well, let me just if I could make a sidebar comment, a little note. We will take the note of the correction to the liquor regulations, and the next, like when the board adopted the changes in May that had some of the liquor commissioner regulations that the first meeting, you guys accepted and it went on the books of the new regulations for liquor commissioner. But for me to have the attorney drop this and change one line, I'd rather wait, mark it as changed when we do another update on the
Okay.
one, on that section of the 112 liquor.
Yes.
And then we'll remind to remove that as
Okay.
we edit it, because to go through and remove a line at the same time, I hate to do that. I just make a note, hey, we'll remove this line when we do a next revise, because, well, sooner or later, we're gonna get it, and then we'll just remove it from there if that's a
Okay, no,
it's a
that sounds-
consideration, because to remove a line and take a line and reprint a line and change the regulation, I mean, there are probably, a wide range of our ordinances that have some, maybe a small amount of outdated wording, but unless you see them and go through them and note this, but we just, like I said, we just did a update, and realistically, to me, to even for the liquor commissioner, that's about 2 months of time of making sure we're writing it the right way, following the guidelines, proofreading it before we even bring it to the board. So I'll make a note, and I have to
Do we need to
redact
make a-
that.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
No, you're not doing anything.
We're not doing anything until...
No, I'll make a note that
Okay.
we'll redact that when we do another update on
Okay,
the liquor.
okay, that sounds good. Now, as far as the fee's concerned, when it comes to the liquor establishments, I mean, we get sales tax from them, we get liquor license fees from them, we get video game fees from them, there's property tax, so it's not like, there's no revenue that's created, and the $250 that I had seen, and I partially agree with Mr. Jones with this, I just don't see the $250 what it does. I had come in here with a suggestion of amending that fee for the commercial amplifier under 95.01 license required C, that the license shall be $100 per year. I don't think that Mr. Drowley, or, because I believe we only have, or will have, 2, I don't think either one of them would have too many objections to the $100 per year. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's in line with the original request from.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
We
But
don't-
keep the
The
private
50
one
The
the
50 and
same.
the 25, with, everything stays the same,
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. Need a motion on that?
I motion to change the fee for a commercial amplifier license from $250 to $100 per year.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Bowden?
Yes.
Mr. March?
Yes.
And Mr.
Yes. Okay, review the cable franchise regarding the solicitation. I guess there was a request from Comcast, a representative from Comcast, that they wanted to come in and solicit the village and go to the residents and solicit to go to house to house. And one of the comments, I believe, that was made that, well, Beecher gives us 90 days. And I know part of our application here, part of it is that it is allowed for 3 days. Now, seeing that I do have, I believe so far this year, we have had $39,000 in fees from Comcast, in franchise fees. I kind of think that the 90 days is out there. Do I have any feedback?
There's apparently nobody from Comcast here, right?
No, but
And they were invited?
Not to the,
not to this.
Not to this,
No.
to the board
They
meeting.
will be hopefully they will be.
How did this request come in?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
to the Comcast representatives
Mm-hmm.
came in asking about solicitors' licenses.
Okay.
So I explained the solicitors' licenses to them,
Mhm.
that if there were 2 of them doing it, the first one would have to pay 50, the second one would have to pay 30, I think it is.
35, I think.
35?
Yeah.
Okay. And they would pick 3 consecutive days, but they can't use Sunday, and then we have the time frame to and from.
Mhm.
And he said, well, no, he says, when we do other areas, we have a much longer time to go through the town. And I said, I'm sure you do, but when they changed our ordinance, because our ordinance used to be, you got a solicitor's license and you could solicit all year long. And it was changed to this. We do run into some problems. I know we've got an ice cream truck running around all summer long. He won't even come in and get it because he knows he can only have it for 3 days, so he just doesn't come. So we don't know who's out there driving that truck, giving ice cream to our children. So I do have some issues with the way the solicitor's ordinance was changed to what we have presently.
And Donna, how long ago, may I interject, was that?
We've had it this way for, has it been about 5 years, 8 years? We've had it this way for quite a while. I'd have to go back and look up in the book when it was passed, but we've had it this way for quite a while.
And this is the first time it's come before any board challenging or questioning the 3 days?
Right, because like when the Boy Scouts want to go through town and solicit for their spaghetti dinners, or the Girl Scouts want to sell their cookies, they come before the board and they ask for permission, and then they've got a timeline. We want to do it from here to here. And the board gives them special permission to do it. So those particular organizations don't have to come and pay that $50 and only have 3 days.
Could we have that each license/permit shall be valid for the period of to be determined?
Well, then you're bringing everyone to the board and they have to wait for a board meeting besides going through all the background stuff, because once they fill that out, it goes to the police department and they check it out and then it comes back up and then we go from there.
Okay.
So,
I might recommend, and this question comes up a lot when you have, what's our regulations say, it's very easy for us to also check with other communities to see how their solicitor licenses are defined, because I can tell you, like, every fundraiser, every kid knocking at the door, I know the football players are out selling
I
something.
just bought a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Bought it
They
today.
didn't
not
come to the
everybody
board.
comes to ring the doorbell of the village, say, hey, I'm soliciting for fundraising. And,
and they're going to doors that have no soliciting signs, which is
yeah, I
strictly
mean, so,
forbidden.
you know, it's, what I would, and I can, your next board meeting is when, the 30th?
Monday.
It's coming Monday.
This coming Monday. Let me attempt to do some research, and maybe Monday I can have some draft regulations, how other towns are looking at it. I know the 3 days is a minute window of them coming here, but I can't go back and try to remember why or when this was changed to allow it the 3-day window, and you know these companies like AT&T, Comcast, NI Gas, the electric people, everybody's trying to sell lower rates and all this, and all these utilities are really a breed of the communities. They are trying to get the best deals, to the words. It's, I mean, it's almost like the newspaper guy knocking your door, do you want to take a free subscription? Does he have to solicit? So you know, before we start trying to amend our regulation, let's see if we need to review and see what regulation we need to maybe do some real editing on it.
Do we really need to follow after other towns?
Well, I would tell you that sometimes the best words, not that you take every word, but you don't have to recreate the every word. But a lot of towns take very good approach to this, and we all kind of follow each body's background. I mean, when I'm researching liquor regulations, I like to see what big towns are doing, little towns around us, and sometimes, I mean, I say all the village codes of Illinois are on computer. Every town has everything on computer, and you can research and look, because you don't want to put yourself in a position the town next door to you has freedom and you have so many restrictions they don't come. So I know a lot of towns have some good ideas, and sometimes we don't need to beat our head against the wall trying to come up with ideas, because it opens up a lot of room for discussion when you see something written. You go, well, we review a lot of towns to make sure we're not forgetting something, because we only think about our backyard and then we'll think, well, we think we got it covered. Sometimes just looking at other communities' regulations, we can say, oh, they've brought this up, which is a formidable idea for discussion. Because when you want to edit this, you're just not going to edit one part of it. You probably want to look at it, the whole avenue, to see. And I don't have it. I didn't bring the solicitor regulations with me to see what all it says. I just don't have them all memorized. I have to go to the book.
After reading it, to me, it seems good. I mean, I like the solicitors prohibited. Also, you know, there's a lot of good things. I like the 10 to 7, no soliciting on Sunday. All that looks good, and I had just thought I had come up with a suggestion of 10 days. And not on Sundays, barring Sundays. which should give people plenty of time. But again,
So you're saying, you'd have to change,
that's a just.
change the whole thing from 3, so everybody gets 10 days,
Yes,
right?
yes, for a period of 10 days. Except no solicitation on Sundays. Everything, I believe, should remain the same. If there's signs up there for no solicitation, solicitors prohibited, no canvassing, any of that, that all remains the same.
In that question, when they talk about solicitations, they talk about all the schools and all the events of it, it just says blank, any solicitation has to have a permit. Because we just defined that the schools and other things do not get permits for solicitation.
No, they come to the board and get a
Now,
special motion.
the high school doesn't, the football team
I'm
didn't come
not
out.
saying they all
No.
come like they're supposed to,
Yeah.
but in order to do what they're doing.
By the regulations, they're supposed to, but,
Maybe we need to get the word out to the school to, maybe not, be awareness that there's a requirement for that.
Anybody have a problem with the 10 days?
I don't find solicitors to be beneficial.
Well, I agree. But,
So I would question the benefit to the town by extending the
but then
length of
again,
time.
too, on the other hand, what if there was something that could benefit somebody? I mean, Comcast, I don't know what they can offer, because this is what brought it up in particular, was Comcast. What can they offer that's gonna be any cheaper by knocking on your door than they can't be by ringing your telephone or on TV?
or sending a mailing.
Or, yes.
And
So, I'm just looking at, and I agree with Chief Mort that maybe, I had tried looking up with Beecher for the 90 days, and then there's a lot of things that came up, and I was gonna do the research on that also, because I agree with Chief Mort that, maybe the other towns have a more lenient,
I mean, Donna, how many solicitor licenses do you?
Not very many, because as soon as I tell them 3 consecutive days, once per year, they go away. Very seldom do we have anybody that goes through the process.
and if you don't wanna
Maybe
answer the
1
door,
or
you don't
2 a
answer
year,
the door.
maybe.
Right.
And things like newspapers don't need it, anything religious doesn't need it, political doesn't need it. They are exempt by the state, so there's nothing,
Oh, so it's only for for-profit organizations?
yeah, pretty much, yeah. But there's a very small list of those that are exempt.
I mean, the only thing I would be in favor of changing possibly is just because we're getting so much money from Comcast, maybe I feel obligated to give them a little more time.
That's where I was going,
But-
can we do that?
Yeah, I just make a motion at the board.
But didn't the lawyer say, oh, be careful, if you grant them, then somebody else can,
And
Come in here.
you always
Establish
open that
precedent.
door.
yeah.
You always
I
open
mean,
that.
can we modify this franchise agreement?
But we have a franchise with,
ComEd.
ComEd. We
Yeah.
have a franchise with telephone. So if you're gonna do it for one, you gotta think
So
about
it's
doing
either we
it for
change
all.
that or we just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with leaving it the way it is also.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I guess I'd be interested in hearing what other towns do. but
Yeah, I can,
on the other hand-
I can put some, I'll just say, now, the communities around us don't necessarily have, some regulations I pick ideas from, but, going to places similar in, New Lenox, Frankfurt, Plainfield, you will see some regulations, Joliet City's code on this. You see some pieces of them that some definitions make sense when you broaden the definition of what's supposed to cover. So these are so readily available, it's easy to review and say what's other towns writing. You go to Beecher, Mantino, Crete, you're not gonna see anything spectacular written that jumps out and hits you, say, hey, we need to change it to that, but there are a lot of communities that are dealing with the same problem of the solicitor and how they refine it to be best, not of annoyance to the members of the community, but also meeting the regulations of the law that you have to allow some, and events that like some of the regulations for some of your not-for-profits that are in your community or your utility companies, maybe some definitions they've addressed already. And I can look that up, and like I said, it takes, tomorrow I can probably have it in your mailboxes by your Monday pickup or this weekend pickup of your agenda.
And to your point, I mean, we're not barring solicitation.
No.
No.
They can solicit. They have it, but they have a business decision if it makes sense for them to solicit. That's
And I
their call.
think That's why it was made so strict, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really their call.
I don't know that this is out of line on that, but it's okay. Mr. Jones, what's your opinion?
Solicitations don't bother me. The ones that bother me are the ones that call me during the dinner hour. Beyond that, it doesn't affect me much.
Mr. Hack?
I'm not opposed to it. I do know, like I told you, when this guy contacted me at the farmer's market, he said that Crete and Beecher were the two that he was trying to compare us to because Comcast gives them 90 days to canvass a town, and he said he can only come to Peotone for 3, where the rest of them are either 6 months to a year. But I'm kind of like you. If you're going to change anything, 3 months is still way too long.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want him knocking on my door for 3 months straight.
So is it like a general consensus you would just table this?
I don't think it needs any changes.
Yeah.
I have a motion to table.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. March,
Yes.
Mr. Bowden,
Yes.
and Mr. Hopkins.
Yes. General discussion? Anything to bring up?
I do. If you're going to change that amplifier to 100, is that going to be effective for this year as soon as the ordinance is drawn and passed? And if that's the case, what about the 250 I already collected from the one from Drolic? Do I figure out a way to rebate that to him, or?
What's the precedent on that? If you revise a fee
Well,
mid-year?
usually you have, it begins, and give it
The
a
next
date,
fee period.
anything after that point
And this starts April 1st. Is it the actual start?
of the license year, yes, yes.
Yeah, usually when you change anything, you're always making it your budget year. And that's when the fees have to be paid, and when you change a few of this, that's when you make it what it is, so it doesn't affect anything in the hanging.
Yeah, unless when the ordinance is written and it's like from this day forward, so that somebody can't, well, I already paid this, now you're gonna give me my money back. I just wanna know where we're gonna go with
Well,
that,
it's
so
just-
I'm prepared for what we need to do.
I would say to say from this day forward.
I agree, yeah.
And
Yes.
I don't think trolleys are
No.
gonna come in and ask for their money back, but if they do, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Well, you have to prepare yourself for the amplifier or whatever requests that somebody has on your table for this time around.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
Doesn't,
listening.
one of the agenda items is the amplifier for,
Well, we can't,
Permit for
we
the,
can't approve that now. I mean, that's.
but that's on your topic for Monday.
Yes, that'll be for Monday. This.
Yes, that's on the agenda for Monday.
So then we have to try to find a way, not find a way, but how do we have this, if we're gonna make it now, do we need some kind of a variance? Do we need some kind of an approval to make this $100 instead of $250? Because I don't believe we should be charging $250.
In order for it to work the way you want it to work, we need to pass the ordinance changing these fees before this is put on the agenda. Now, we can't get an ordinance together by Monday.
No.
So,
How long does it take?
Takes I would say,
and he's pretty quick. When I tell him to put a rush on it, we would have it by the next board meeting, I'm sure.
So we're talking the first meeting in October.
that's the first reading
I
of
mean,
it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the first reading. But that's what I'm saying, it's June, July, August, September, then October. The first meeting in October, we should have it by then.
Yeah, that'd be when you vote on it.
Right.
And what hours, may I ask, where you be discussing on Monday with this amplifier? Is it listed?
She asked,
11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
and then the board decides.
Right. And then the board will decide at that time.
I thought you said the ordinance said 11 PM.
That's special permits.
Yeah, the board decides commercial.
This is
Oh.
commercial.
Remember, outside drinking has 11 PM
Oh,
limitation, and I'm not sure she's aware of that.
okay.
So,
What about, what the beer steward, what did they do? See, we have them at 11?
yes, we did.
Yeah.
And
That
10
makes
o'clock on
sense.
Sundays.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, again, this is something that.
Right.
At the meeting.
Under the general discussion, something I might throw out, and I've seen this done very effectively. Villages employ decibel meters, and the village sets the parameters on what is allowed. And if people complain, they're playing it too loud, you go out there with a decibel meter, here it is, and they write tickets, big tickets, right? Give a warning, say you've exceeded the limit, this is a warning, we gotta come back, and they write pretty big fines. And
I have seen some of the regulations that do measure the amount of sound, how much they
Yeah,
amplify.
and it's so effective, it's black and white, man, here's the dial, bingo, and,
Like the portable breathalyzer for the,
But do we really want to micromanage people like that? Well,
Well, that's
I'm
like
sure
a-
that the business, if an officer would go there and say, listen, we've got complaints, you really need to, I feel that it's loud, and I'm sure your officers have been to enough of those calls. We need to tone it down a little bit, but if we come back,
it's subjective though, and if you're the guy next door that lives in a residential close to it, or one back and one back and one back, it's not like,
Do you get much pushback on people arguing with your officers about that?
well, here's the issue that can go on. When, under the business regulations, i.e. the bars, we really have the control of them by our ordinances. By the criminal elements of what we call disorderly loud, we cannot be, by law, we cannot be the complainant of an offense like that. Because disturbing the peace is an acceptable behavior to police. So we need people to say, they are loud, they are this, they are that. Mr. Jones's approach, well, subjectively, or objectively, you're having a meter that says, well, you're loud because this note says this is, very loud, or ludicrous loud, is different, because a lot of times we have the loud music, loud neighbors. Now we're dependent on the person to step up and testify that they were disturbing your well-being, peace, and that can be a real problem. Residents, this goes on common in the residential areas where your neighbors are loud, but you don't want to do nothing. We can ask them to quiet down, but we can't take enforcement action because I can't say they're too loud in residential. Business regulations, bars, we have some elements in place that they have no point to argue with us because their liquor license is subject to our control.
Liquor and gaming.
Liquor and gaming is subject to our control, and they have to play by our rules. So the bars can't argue with us, and they really can't argue with us because as we wrote the O and M regulations, you'll see that there's language in there that talks about what's allowed and who makes the judgments. And it's us, of what can be tolerated. And you have to abide by the village regulations and our decisions of what's allowed. So in that mindset, that's kind of where it is. I have seen towns though that have a decibel meter and they come up and pull it up. They were doing that in Joliet City for the loud music playing on the cars. Remember when that used to be popular? They were having them go down the street and every car that's playing the tunes, like it used to be popular, everybody blaring boom, boom, boom. They're sitting there with the decibel meter, pulling them to the side, and they were writing them, because then they had a tool to measure what's loud.
There's no question.
It's black and white.
I don't know what we do with cars, but it's easy to do with an establishment. And when a bar owner gets a, here's your ticket, it's $200. Make sure that those doors are closed and that amplifier's turned down some. And it's very simple.
We can also look, I mean, this is the time to look at a lot of those regulations, because we're getting next to fall, and that's gonna be winter. Well, winter time, you don't see a lot of that outside stuff, this and that going on, but come spring, everything starts opening up again, and it's a good time to look at regulations. You wanna look at it and see if there's any amendments you wanna make to them, because in the wintertime, it's easier to have the time to draft them and bring them in place. I would say that if you want to look at some of these matters, when you make your position on administrator, that could be easily be a topic of discussion with the village administrator position, and move forward on that.
Okay. If there's no other comments, then motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Bowden?
Yes.
Mr. March?
Yes.
Mr. Hupkey?
Yes.